Okay, we're ready to start. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone watching on ITV and via live stream and call the July 28th, 2020 regular meeting to order with all board members present via Zoom webinar. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first of all, I would like a motion to adopt today's agenda with items.
Moved.
Okay, with items F4, 5, G4, and 5 to be considered next, following the opposition. Okay, that has been moved by Trustee Beiser and seconded by Trustee Whitehurst Payne. We will now vote. Trustee Barrera.
Aye.
Trustee Beiser.
Aye.
Trustee McQuarrie.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehurst Payne.
Aye.
And Trustee Evans, aye. Okay, we now have the Trustee Patterson is here. Okay, this is our third meeting today, and now I have to remember that this is the first open meeting with Trustee Patterson. Welcome aboard for our 5 o'clock meeting. Okay, today's meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting that is conducted in public in compliance with the state of California and the city of San Diego directives for the public to remain at home during the coronavirus outbreak and not have large group gatherings indoors. The Board of Education has accepted only written testimony for the July 28th, 2020 meeting. Written public testimony statements will be read into the record at the beginning of the appropriate agenda item or at the end of the meeting for non-agenda public comments. So now we will move to the items that we have moved to the front of the agenda. And first of all, I would like a motion on items F4 and F5.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Trustee Beiser.
Second.
And seconded by Trustee Patterson, I believe, if I heard correctly. Okay, very good. So these two items, the High Tech High is action on the charter revision to change their special education local plan area. And for Harriet Tubman Village Charter School, it's the action on the charter revision to amend the governance section and bylaws. Are there any questions or comments by board members on these two items? Okay, if not, we will go ahead and vote on these items, starting off with Student Trustee Patterson.
Aye.
Barrera.
Aye.
Beiser.
Aye.
McQuarrie.
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne.
Aye.
And Evans. Aye. Okay, those two items are approved, 5-0 plus our student board member. Now we're going to item G4, which is the National University Academy 1001 STEAM Charter School action on revision to charter petition to rename the school as Suncoast STEAM Academy and merge with the NUA Homeschool and Independent Study of Orange County. So could we have a presentation by the staff on what the recommendations are for this particular item?
Hi, good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Deirdre.
Hi. So staff is recommending that the board grant a portion of this item and deny the other portion. We are recommending that the board grant the renaming of the school to Suncoast STEAM Academy, but we are recommending that you deny altering the governance structure to merge with the NUA Homeschool and Independent Study corporation that operates that school. So some history on the item. In May 2017, the district denied the first NUA 1001 STEAM charter petition. About a year later, the district granted the amended charter petition. The petition that was approved by the district described that the school would be affiliated with National University including operating its educational program at a national university-owned site on Arrow Court, and that the school would operate as its own separate entity. The current revision request now seeks to reverse this independence. As we've noted in the staff recommendation, during its 2 years of operational history, NUA 1001 has struggled in the areas of governance and operations. During both annual site visits, significant deficiencies were identified to the school. At the January 2020 site visit, the most recent one, the school was requested to submit a charter revision, including amended bylaws, to address identified concerns in the governance structure. Recent changes at the school. National University recently terminated its service agreement with NUA, requested that the school change its name to remove references to National University, and required the school to vacate the National University facility that it had been located in. The information submitted by NUA failed to clarify the school's organizational structure, failed to address our concerns regarding governance and operations, and increases the risk of a negative fiscal status. The corporation that NUA is requesting to merge with operates a charter school that may have significant outstanding debt owed to the former back office provider. So approving a merger with another entity could hamper the district's efforts to monitor NUA and put its finances at risk. They also, in the documents they submitted for this revision, the school failed to provide even minimal information about the proposed new board members, their term date, and other information that we've requested. As indicated in the write-up, the school is currently not in good standing, and they've been notified that they are at risk of non-renewal if the concerns aren't addressed. So when we looked at all of the different pieces that this school has had changes in, and we look at them as a whole, we have to consider whether this should be a new petition or a granted revision. So as on the whole, we're looking at a location change for the school, a governance structure change, a corporate structure change, and then potentially changes to the educational program based on the now lack of affiliation with National University. So for those reasons, the staff is recommending that all of the proposed revisions be denied with the exception of the renaming of the school. Thank you.
Okay, so basically the staff recommendation is to approve the renaming of the school, which is separating from National University, to Suncoast STEAM Academy, but to not approve the merger with the Orange County group. Is there a motion on this item? Trustee McQuarrie, your motion is to?
So to accept staff recommendation,
Okay, to accept staff recommendation of those.
which should be approved, name change, but
Deny the
not-
merger.
but deny the merge, right?
Yes, okay. Is there a second on this motion? All right, seconded by Trustee Barrera. Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Board member questions and comments on this item. Trustee Patterson.
Yeah, so I just want to ask from this point in time, if we are to accept these recommendations, or what can you describe as the follow-up process for this charter school to move forward, just so I have a better understanding on how we're providing them with a process to make sure that they can be successful, even though we're denying part of this right now.
So basically what happens after this item, Deirdre? Right.
So if the board votes to deny this revision request at this time, the school has the option to come back and submit a revised proposal. We would prefer that it be, if they do opt to do that, we would prefer that it be after they clean up their governance and operational issues. We have spent the last 2 years giving detailed information, I would say, to the school regarding what it is that we are looking for them to correct. They have had issues, the governance structure for one, being able to clearly define what it is and who's governing this school. So even the most basic things have been issues. But I think we have done a fairly good job of identifying the issues to the school, telling them what our expectation is for them to correct them, and giving them a reasonable timeline to correct them. So essentially, they are up for renewal. They've completed 2 years, so they have 3 years left on their charter term. So we've notified them that these next 2 years should be spent focused on correcting the deficiencies and getting a strong governance and operational plan in place. And we've shared those items with the school. We've shared it with the leadership. We've shared it with board members. So, as part of our annual oversight process, we meet with different stakeholders for each charter school. So we interview teachers, we interview finance reps, we interview school leaders, we interview board members. So we get a whole picture and we share information with that whole leadership team. So the school has been, I think, prepped for moving forward, and they know that when the time may be more appropriate, they can return to us with another revision request.
Definitely. And is there a process to appeal in this sense, or is this the final for this specific job of the charter school?
So on a material revision, there is no appeal process like there is for a new charter or a renewing charter. So the remedy for the school is essentially to go back and create a new plan that they could submit to our board for review and staff recommendation on the moving forward plan.
And they're able to open their school year even in the current situation with this part of denial?
Yes,
Yeah,
they can still operate as they had planned to operate. The one big area of concern right now, and part of the reason, a large reason why they're not in good standing, is they don't have a facility. So they have not come to us. They had to vacate the facility they were in as of June 30th, and they have not submitted documents to us for approval of a new facility. So right now they're a school that doesn't have a place to be housed, and they would need to correct that by the time school starts. Even though we're in a 100% distance learning pattern right now, they still need to have a facility on record.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, Dr. McCrory and then Dr. Wickersham.
So is the approval of the new location a major revision?
It would be considered a material revision. Anytime a charter school moves, expands, changes locations, they need to come back to the authorizing entity and request approval for that new facility. So they will need to come back to us, hopefully soon, with a revision request to identify a new facility to us.
Okay, Trustee Whitehurst Payne.
This school, thank you, Dr. Evans. Deidre has spent a lot of time on it, and it came before the board, and we were really excited about them because I guess they came from somewhere else and they joined up with National. And then we got excited because we thought they would lend some stability and move forward. It seemed that the parents were excited also. And now we come back with them leaving National with no place to go. So in response to Trustee Patterson's question, we've been working with them for a while, and I think these things have to be corrected. They have 3 years to do it, but they really do need to get it together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, and let's go ahead and vote on this item. And I'm also hearing an echo to everything I say. I don't know if everybody else is hearing an echo while I talk, but I'll try to ignore it.
It's actually me, Dr. Evans. I just wanted to make sure that we had allowed a chance for Kimberly Kopp to say something. She's the petitioner for this item, if she so chooses.
Thank you very much for pointing that out, and that was remiss on my part. So now we will go to the petitioner from this petition.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. My name is Kimberly Kopp. I'm the executive director of the STEAM school that is before you at this moment. We are very appreciative of the charter office and the time that they have spent with us. We understand we are in a position to take corrective action, and we are intending to do so. We hope to have a material revision that meets all the requirements and addresses all of the concerns that have been pointed out to us by the charter office. And we hope to bring this material revision again to you with their endorsement the next time. And just wanted to thank the charter office for the recommendation for a name change. We're very excited about that. And we will move forward from here.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. So at this point, we will vote on the motion, which is approve the name change, but to deny the other parts. Let's start with Trustee Patterson.
Aye.
Barrera.
Aye.
Beiser.
Aye.
McQuarrie.
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne.
Aye.
And Evans, aye. Okay, that passes 5-0 along with our student board member. And we will now then move on to item G5, which is the O'Farrell Charter School, the action on the charter revision to increase enrollment projections. And let's hear first from the staff on their position on this particular item.
Great,
Deirdre.
thank you. Thank you. So staff is recommending denial of the proposed revision to the charter of O'Farrell School to increase its enrollment effective with the 20/21 school year. The O'Farrell School began operating in 1994-95 school year and has been approved to serve grades K-12. So it's a single CDS code charter school serving grades K through 12. Their current charter term began July 1, 2019 and ends June 30, 2024. As part of its renewal documents, the school submitted the enrollment projections included in Table 2, which is essentially they had requested to enroll 1,835 students each school year. And so at this point, the school is requesting the board's approval to increase its approved enrollment beginning with the 2021 school year as reflected in Table 3. So you'll see the table that has the, for 2 years, annual increases, and then it kind of stabilizes. The district is recommending denial because as indicated by Table 3, O'Farrell's projected 9th grade enrollment is significantly lower, about 43% in the majority of years, than its 8th grade enrollment. So this results in current O'Farrell 8th grade students not being able to enroll in the school for 9th grade. So the district is concerned that O'Farrell has elected to be a single K-12 charter school, but it has an enrollment plan which involuntarily withdraws its own students from continuing into its high school program. And an increase in enrollment at kindergarten is likely to compound this issue rather than help it. Table 4 summarizes O'Farrell's historic enrollment by grade level. And so you'll see in there annually, there's a large increase in middle school grade enrollment, and then a significant decrease for the high school enrollment, especially at 9th grade. We also noted that during the 1920 school year, O'Farrell exceeded its approved enrollment by approximately 73 students or 4%. And as we understand it, they have increased even well beyond that at this point. In a letter submitted by the school, they indicated they have enrolled, I believe it's 1991 as of right now. Table 5 includes the 8th grade matriculation data. So you'll see for the most recent year, 26% of current 8th graders were involuntarily withdrawn from the school via a random lottery process. So essentially students, 8th grade students have to proactively apply to get into 9th grade, and a certain chunk will be involuntarily removed based on a random lottery process. We couldn't identify any other of our charter schools that have this type of enrollment plan or enrollment structure. So we are recommending denial of the revision request because the enrollment plan presents an unsound educational program for existing students, because it continues the practice that prevents existing students from remaining at their own school. So rather than adjusting the school's program to meet the needs and interests of its existing students, O'Farrell is seeking to continue an enrollment plan that results in students being randomly selected by lottery to withdraw from the school. This runs counter to what O'Farrell said it needed to increase the kindergarten enrollment for their stated purpose. So in the documents that were provided by O'Farrell in the background information regarding this enrollment increase, they stated that the school's intent was to prepare students for the rigors of their own middle and high school, and that O'Farrell Charter School had decided to expand its kindergarten program with the expectation of enrolling students into their very first year of school and supporting them throughout their academic careers. However, the proposed enrollment plan doesn't align with this statement. And so what happens is it can result in a student completing 9 years at the school and then not being permitted to continue on to high school. And so we see this as an equity and an access issue. And the enrollment plan is presented in the revision request. Just creates that issue for us, and denying the revision would prevent more students from being involuntarily removed at the end of 8th grade. Sorry.
Thank you, Deirdre. And before we move forward with our motions and discussion, I'd like to have an opportunity for Susan, and I'm sorry I don't want to mispronounce your last name, who is representing O'Farrell Charter School. If you could do your presentation now.
Thank you. Yes, it's Susan Katita.
Katita, okay.
Yes. I always remind people fajita, Katita, and you want to remember it, then drop the fajita and you'll remember Katita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board President, Board members, Superintendent Martin, Ms. Walsh, and District staff. My name is Susan Katita. I'm the interim superintendent of the O'Farrell Charter School. We appreciate the work done by Ms. Walsh and her staff on this material revision, and O'Farrell has a long and positive history working with the Office of Charter Schools. We sent a letter to the district board about our enrollment, which was also sent to the Office of Charter Schools. This letter explains how we're doing all we can in good faith, and we're proposing the following. We respectfully request the board approve O'Farrell's current enrollment for the 2021 school year, conditioned on the commitments made in our letter to get back in alignment with the enrollment number set forth in our charter as soon as possible without disenrolling students. We look forward to continuing our productive relationship into the future, and I thank you for our time. And I believe you all received a copy of the letter. I sent that on. I also sent a revised letter, but we are, as what Ms. Walsh had indicated, we don't have all of our 8th graders able to go into our 9th grade. However, we are very committed into equalizing our middle school and our high school class sizes, and I'm reading that from the letter that I submitted. So I wanted you guys to know that we do have a commitment to equalize our middle school to be able to have all of our 8th grade students in the future be able to move into our 9th grade.
Okay, so that I understand what you're saying is that you want approval of the increased enrollment for kindergarten with the understanding that you will be making changes to make sure that in the future 8th graders are not disenrolled from high school. Is that, I don't have the letter in front of me, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Correct, because currently our middle school numbers are higher, and we enroll approximately 200 students from the outside 6th grade to come into our 6th grade class. And so that is an easy fix that we can begin to equalize our middle school. Because not all of our 5th graders, even with the increased kindergarten class, are going to, all of our fifth graders, even with the increased kindergarten, will be able to matriculate into our middle school. And then we will lessen and we will enroll fewer students from outside to come in, and we'll begin to equalize. And that is the commitment that we can give you moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Trustee Barrera.
Yeah, thank you, President Evans, and thank you, Deidre, for your work and your recommendation. And thank you, Susan, for your presentation tonight. I want to make a motion that we do approve the request for a material revision with a couple of conditions. One condition would be that
the current total enrollment of the school exceeds what has been approved in the agreement by, I think, over 150 students. And so we have an issue there where the school has a total enrollment that's above what has been approved. And so the first condition that we would ask for a written agreement from O'Farrell, from Susan and her board, would be a commitment to take all necessary measures to bring that total enrollment, bring the total excess enrollment down by half, or approximately 75 students, by the beginning of this school year, the 2021 school year, and a commitment that O'Farrell would bring its total enrollment back down to the 1,835 approved level by the beginning of the following school year, 21-22. But to do this without disenrolling any students. So the attrition measures that Susan outlined, particularly at the middle school, would be the strategy that you would use to bring that total enrollment number back down. So halfway there by the beginning of this school year, all the way there by the beginning of the 21-22 year, but without disenrolling students in that process. And the second condition, which I think goes hand in hand, is that O'Farrell eliminates this process of a lottery that forces middle school students to withdraw before they are able to enroll in the high school. So making it possible that all O'Farrell students who wish to continue into high school will be able to do so. And again, to accomplish that without disenrolling any students. And I don't make this motion lightly. It's not a good practice for us as an authorizer to allow a school to over-enroll and then come back for a material revision, to allow for that increased enrollment. There's a reason why on the front end, we work to establish an agreement on total enrollment. I will also say that I believe historically one of O'Farrell's real strengths, and there are many strengths, has been that it is focused not on growth for the sake of growth, but on quality. And so O'Farrell's practice in the past of making sure that it can provide the education that it believes its students deserve for its students without compromising that quality based on a growth strategy, I think has contributed to its success. And O'Farrell has had significant success. O'Farrell is a neighborhood school that has produced really outstanding results. We think about the percentage of O'Farrell graduates who move on to the UC system, a long established partnership with the district. And it's really based on O'Farrell's track record that I proposed this motion despite the responsible and reasonable recommendations from staff. So that's my motion.
Just to clarify on the motion, it is to approve the increase of the kindergarten enrollment up to the number that is in the petition, with the two conditions that that the excess enrollment above what's been approved be reduced by 1/2 this year and then by 1/2 the following year to bring it down to the level that is authorized. And then secondly, that no students be disenrolled during that time from middle school to high school, and that O'Farrell not have a lottery for the high school is one of the conditions. And first of all, I'm going to ask Susan to answer, but is there a second on this motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
If
trustee-
Susan Katita approves the
Right,
motion,
right,
there
exactly.
it has to be a group effort on this journey.
Exactly. So because that was the next point I was going to bring up, trustee Beiser was seconded with Ms. Katina, which is, I wanted to find out from you if what trustee Barrera has proposed is doable, because you're increasing the kindergarten, but you're decreasing the overall enrollment, and from 1 year, and then again the next year, and you're making sure that all the middle school students to go to high school, and with your normal attrition and so forth. I understand that you said that a lot of students come in at middle school, which is what they're added on, and that creates the bottleneck for the high school. But is this, first of all, is it mathematically feasible and agreeable to you?
Yes, this is agreeable, and I'm making the commitment that I'll do everything in good faith to get back to the alignment with our charter as quickly as possible, as Mr. Barrera said, without disenrolling students. So yes, that is our commitment.
But you do believe, you say that make good faith effort, but you do believe that it is possible to cut the excess in half in this entering school year, and by 1/2 the following year.
So in the letter that I had submitted, it did say, and I'm going to go ahead and just read a portion of it. It does say that we have already enrolled 1,991 students for the coming 2021 school year, which begins August 19th. Historically, approximately 75 of our students enrolled do not actually attend on the first day of school. So that is a historical, and then we pull off of our wait list to add those numbers. However, so that's our historical number. I'm uncertain whether this historical trend is going to continue due to COVID. I'm hopeful, but O'Farrell does agree not to enroll any additional students for the 2021 school year, and we will not be pulling off any students from our wait list should any of our students not attend on the first day. We will not. That is an agreement. It is in writing that I had submitted to you.
And then in terms of the increase, and I'll get to questions here, but in terms of increase to kindergarten, is that already set up?
So the increase in kindergarten is already set up. Yes. Again, I came, as you know, I'm the interim. I have come into this, but currently we have 2 kindergarten classes going into 3 first grade classes. So adding an additional kindergarten class, we're already pulling outside first grade students anyway. So we wouldn't be pulling outside first grade students either. So yes, we can do this, and we can do this mostly by equalizing the middle school and lessening the number of students that we pull in from the outside 6th grade.
Okay, trustee Barrera, do those answers seem reasonable to you, or do you have further questions?
No, the answers are reasonable. We do need to produce a new written agreement. I appreciate the letter that Susan has submitted, but I think we need a new written agreement that is signed off by Susan and her board as a condition of this motion.
Okay. Okay, now trustee Whitehurst-Payne.
Thank you. And I concur with all of that's been said so far, but I have a question for Deidre. Deidre you said you go out, you talk to folks and all of that. I'd like to know what the students or the parents are saying about why they're not being enrolled. I mean, how do they feel about not being able to continue from elementary to middle to high? I mean, what's going on with that part of it? Is it a matter of, well, we're creaming, we're getting only the students who are going to make us look good, or can any child get to stay based upon and support it, then supported by the school to ensure that they will be successful, because that's why the school exists, to ensure that schools, all children are learning. Is that clear?
Yes. So when we meet with stakeholders, we have brought the 8th to 9th grade matriculation issue up with the school leaders. So it's something we have talked with them about in the past, and we have talked about having that corrected by the time they are up for renewal. When we talk with parents, it's not a large group of parents. So we'll get, for each site visit, we'll get 3 to 4 parents that we talk with. So the chances of us getting a parent of an 8th grader who has been in receipt of a letter that says your child got involuntarily withdrawn because they didn't make it through the lottery, percentages of that happening is fairly small. So we don't hear that from parents. I think that's an excellent question for Susan to find out what kind of feedback they get from parents. If I'm a parent of an 8th grader being told that I've been there 9 years and I can't continue on, I think that's pretty devastating. And my understanding of the lottery is it is represented to be a blind lottery, a non-weighted lottery. So if you're brand new in 8th grade that year, or you've been there for 9 years, you go into the same pot and your name has the same chances of being drawn. So there isn't a preference given to students who have been there longer term, perhaps their entire educational experience. So we haven't had too many conversations with families. But we do know that O'Farrell is the only charter school that does this. They're the only one with an enrollment plan that eliminates their own students. So, and I think your questions about access and who is moving on, we will certainly be looking into those, because I do think people would find it questionable for a school to have its 8th graders and they then have a percentage that don't get to move on. That's not a traditional setup for any of the schools. So I think we'll definitely be taking a closer look at the students that are not moving on and perhaps what that historical data has looked like.
Trustee Patterson.
Yeah, so that is really the concern I'm seeing. Trustee Barrera, maybe you can clarify for me. So did anything in that motion state that if we're looking at the next school year, are we saying that every single 8th grader will be able to matriculate into 9th grade, or was that not part of that agreement?
That's the second part of my motion, that O'Farrell would end the practice of having a lottery that forces involuntary withdrawal of students. We want to see O'Farrell move to a system that allows all students to continue on. That's the second part of my motion.
Mm-hmm. So
yes.
Thank you for the clarification. So while I totally support that and I completely understand the necessity of it, I do have a few concerns that I think are very relevant. First of all, we are not the charter school office, and I think the charter school office has invested an immense amount of time to look into this, to prepare for this, and has spent almost weeks looking over this. And I think that the haste of this choice and this decision could be a little bit of an ineffective piece of legislation that we're moving forward, discussing that, yes, we are the governing board of the school district, but we have a staff that works on these things and moves forward effectively and efficiently. And I really do trust the charter school office. They have shown time and time again their responsibility and their ability to move forward. And from their recommendations, I do believe what they say. And while this definitely, I really think it's important to find a viable path to move forward, I don't know if I can support something that we're putting forth right here at this very moment, rather than consulting back with our charter school office and reviewing again. I have trouble understanding why we couldn't go back to the charter school office, have them come back to us with new recommendations, a new agreement, rather than legislation made straight on the board at this current time. And then the second piece that concerns me is the fact that while we are making an agreement now, there was also an agreement there that we have specific numbers to meet. And I do still have doubts of the fact that, yes, there's fluctuations, students don't come to the school, you have enrollment projections, you're over, they were pretty significantly over. And that is a concern to me. And I do worry about how we're proceeding on this. So I guess that is where I currently stand.
Thank you, Zachary. And Dr. McQuarrie.
Yeah, in a similar vein, I'm wondering if we could have an explanation or the reason why there was an over enrollment without asking for a major revision. One, two, what is the enforcement or the legality of making a conditional approval? And I bring this up not because of O'Farrell and we can't trust them, but because we did go down this path once before, and it became very problematic. And then thirdly, I'm wondering, have we considered the budgetary impact of making these reductions within the 2-year time frame?
Are you asking that question for Deirdre?
I would say, yeah, the history, sort of, yeah. What is the explanation? How did we get to this? How
To
did
this
we get here?
over enrollment, right?
Right.
So, thank you. I can answer two of those as to why they over-enrolled and why they over-enrolled even more significantly this year. I can't really answer that question. We honestly just found out that they were at 1991 when we got the letter on Monday. Our understanding in our conversations with the school is that they were closer to 1908, which is what they were last school year. And so the school never mentioned 1991 as the enrollment to us until we saw it in the letter yesterday. So I think why they continue to over enroll, I think that's a question for the school. As to some of the legalities of the pieces, so that charter petition where the school identified what it wanted its enrollment to be, I think that's an important point. That 1835, that was not a district determined enrollment. That was what O'Farrell provided to us and said, this is what we want our enrollment to be. And once they did that, that charter petition is the legally binding document. And so that's what we go by. As other folks have mentioned, we do allow a little fluctuation, not significant, not 150 students. And so I think part of it was we weren't notified of the large increase. And then the legality of the conditioned approval. You are right. We have done conditioned approvals in the past, and we have ended up in litigation over them. They are, some would say unenforceable, and some would say very difficult to enforce. For us, that charter document is the truly enforceable document. That's our best chance at enforcing the requirements of things. For the budget impact, the binding document for us. So when anyone questions, what did the charter school say in its petition? What are the terms? What are they required to do? We look to that charter petition because that's the document. So that tells us what they said they were going to enroll. That tells us the educational program they said they would implement, the governance structure they said they would use. And when you stray from those documents, that's where schools will find themselves in trouble, because that is the binding document. And that's the one that we would go by, is what their charter petition says.
So just to follow up on that, so a pathway could be we deny the request, giving them 2 years to make a correction?
So we would, if the board denied the revision, we would immediately go back to the school and ask them to come into alignment via a corrective action plan with their charter petition.
And that plan could be a 2-year plan?
We could, I think we could work out some of the details. I think some things may take a little more time than others, like the 8th to 9th grade issue of forcing out students. That takes a little bit of time if you're trying to do it without forcing your 6th graders and your 7th graders out ahead of that, because they do expand their middle school enrollment. Now, getting the enrollment down to 1835, I think that's a much quicker fix, because as the letter and Ms. Katita has said, they enroll about 300 brand new students every year. So you could cut that number in half and be back down to your 1835 in the charter petition. So I think there's some different ways to move forward if the board denies the revision request. The other issue that I wanted to, and I'll get to the budget, that I just wanted to hit on real quick is we talk about the enrollment. We don't want to have to disenroll students, but in actuality, they are disenrolling students going from 8th to 9th grade. That's been established. The idea or the concept of we have to disenroll a student that has never attended the school, I don't know that that would be considered a disenrollment. I think there was an offer of enrollment made that was out of compliance with the charter document. But I think that's a very different issue than truly disenrolling an 8th grade student moving on to 9th grade. And then lastly, you asked about the budgetary impact. O'Farrell has a significant reserve, multi-million-dollar reserve. So the budget impact, while there likely would be to staffing, salaries, benefits, those types of things, if they cut down on their enrollment, certainly those would impact. But it's not an impact that would put O'Farrell at risk of becoming fiscally insolvent.
Right, and I also understand that O'Farrell, like a number of our charters, received some PPP loans or grants because of the COVID federal action.
I don't know if O'Farrell was on the list. I'd have to go back and check that. Off the top of my head, I don't recall O'Farrell being on the list. We had about 10 or 12 of our charter schools that received those funds. And I'm sorry, I have that list not in my virtual giant binder that I usually have in front of me. So
could we have Susan Katita respond to the first question on what is the reason for how they got over-enrolled?
Yes, I have come into the approved enrollment before I took this position. And so naturally, we have had more students wishing to come into our school. And I mean, I have to be honest that the previous administration before I took over had allowed that to happen. I am, as I said, as the interim superintendent, I'm doing everything I can in good faith to make this right. The one thing that I would like to address is our 8th grade into 9th grade. I am committed to making that happen, but I do want to bring up that in our charter that was approved by the district, I'm looking specifically at page 5, where it says in our charter, it says, historically, the charter school operated as a very large middle school until it added elementary and high school grade levels. It shows the projection of the elementary school and the high school numbers in the 515 for elementary and 550 for high school. And I'm specifically looking on page 5 that shows that the middle school was significantly larger at 770. So that's page 5 in our charter. And if requested, that is exactly what we will do. I am committed to getting us back into alignment. I'm committed to working very closely with the charter office, and I'm committed to working closely with the district. And I've communicated this with my board chair. My board chair is committed. I cannot make a statement for our organization. I'm bringing this to the attention of our board meeting at the very next meeting, but our board chair is very committed to getting back into alignment with all the aspects of our charter.
What about the second portion of the proposed motion that you would eliminate the lottery and not allowing all your students from 8th grade matriculating to 9th grade?
I'm not sure. Can you repeat your question specifically? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second part of the proposed motion was the issue with the lottery.
Right.
Of all 8th grade students not automatically being matriculated to 9th grade. And I'm wondering what is your position or feeling about eliminating that reduction in enrollment from 8th grade to 9th grade?
Yes, we are very committed. We're committed to getting our middle school enrollment in align with our elementary, which ultimately gets aligned with our high school as well. So yes, our goal moving forward, again, that would go a little bit off of what we have in our charter, but we certainly can bring that back. And we are committed to getting our middle school back into smaller sizes so that we can have all of our 8th grade students have the opportunity, should they choose, because not all of them want to go into our 9th grade. We are a very small school. We don't have all of the big sports programs and all of that. But we want to get to the place that we can offer a seat for every single 8th grade student moving forward into 9th grade. And if they choose to not continue, then that's their choice.
Yeah, thank you. So sort of in summary, from what I understand now, is that we're in agreement on the goal, the outcome, on the number of students and on the 8th grade, 9th grade matriculation. The question is, what is the best way to do that? And what is the most responsible way, I suppose, the best legal way to make that happen? And it could either be conditional and making that happen the way the motion is currently phrased, or not approving and then working it out in the reconstruction plan that you would work through with Deidre and the charter staff. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and just to clarify, Deidre, in terms of the over-enrollment issue, and we were talking about enforceability, not just with O'Farrell, but when a charter exceeds its established enrollment approved for their petition, what leverage does the district have at that point? Because I know that our ultimate thing is is in terms of when it comes up for renewal, and obviously a revocation is a very serious thing. So what is possible for the district to do when a charter mid point in the petition renewal it exceeds their enrollment?
So thank you for the question. So we do monitor the enrollment, and most of our charter schools have stayed within their allowed enrollments. And when they have intended to go over, they have contacted us ahead of time, sometimes as much as a year in advance, to say, we want to increase our enrollment. So that's obviously the ideal way to do it. When it happens and we haven't been notified, the school has to submit a corrective action plan in one form or another to fix it. So it's either getting back down to the approved numbers or submitting a revision that gets reviewed and approved by the board. So those are the ways to remedy it. So other things that we can do, if a charter school does it and they don't reduce their numbers or submit a plan that would get approved by the board to increase the enrollment, then we go into more corrective action plans, letters of concerns. We put schools into not in good standing status, which impacts sometimes their state funds for reimbursement monies, like for example, SB 740. If a school is not in good standing, they're not entitled to receive those funds. Schools who are receiving Prop Z and Measure YY bond funds, it can be impacted because of not in good standing status. So we've had over the past, I'd say 4 years, a couple of schools, one lost their allocation for Prop Z funds, and the other moved to the very back of the line. So their project got delayed by 2 or 3 years, I think it was. So that's a significant thing that can happen if a school is not in good standing status based on failure to comply with their enrollment requirements. And then, as you mentioned, we always have the revocation tool. So if we continually work with the school and they continually violate the term of the charter, including the enrollments, then we can pursue a notice of violation and a revocation process. And ultimately, non-renewal is also an option depending on where we are in the time frame. If we're closer to renewal than if we were at the very beginning of a charter term.
Okay, thank you, June. Trustee Brewer, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I think Deidre and Dr. Macquarie just summarized where we're at with this issue, in my mind, exactly right, which is we've got two paths that we can go down. One is we can deny the request for material revision today, which immediately puts O'Farrell in a situation that is out of compliance, and then we move down the corrective action pathway. The other is that we accept my motion, which is to accept the material revision with the conditions that I've stated. Let me again explain why I believe I'd rather go in the latter direction with this school. And Trustee Patterson, I also absolutely understand and respect your concern that we would, from the dais, make a change to the staff recommendation. I have tremendous respect and confidence in our charter office, and I never lightly would go against their recommendation. It is something that I've discussed, over the last several days with Deidre and the superintendent and Susan. So it's not something that I'm not making this recommendation on the spot. It's something that I'm making having been informed in conversations with the charter office and the superintendent. There's two issues that concern me about going down the corrective action path. One is that we go down a path which Deidre just outlined, which puts us in conflict with O'Farrell. And especially if we start moving in a situation where we're talking about, letters that O'Farrell's not in good standing, that it affects funding, that it affects, facilities funding. I think that's a path that I would prefer to avoid with a school that has the track record that O'Farrell has and has the historic relationship with our district that O'Farrell has. I believe and I trust Susan's commitment that they will approach this process with good faith. I do want to see a written agreement that's signed off by Susan and her board. But I think we've got a school here that frankly has earned some trust. And I understand the situation that Susan is in, which is the over-enrollment came through decisions that were made before she got there. And now what she's trying to do is make corrections and get us back in compliance. The second issue, and I appreciate Deidre's distinction between disenrolling students and revoking offers that have been made to students who haven't yet been enrolled. I appreciate that distinction, but I also think as we're a month away from the beginning of school, I don't think it's fair to families, and it's not that it's the district's fault, but I don't think it's fair to families who have been offered a place in the kindergarten at the school, who are making plans to be there, that the corrective action would involve revoking that offer and putting those families in a situation where they have to find a new school. I'd prefer a different way of going about it. I think my motion presents a different way. I think the strategy that Susan has outlined about attrition and dealing with middle school enrollment offers us a different way. And so I would rather do this in a way that is cooperative and sympathetic to the interests of O'Farrell families. And that's why I make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Barrera. Other comments by board members? Trustee Whitehurst-Payne, and then we'll go to Trustee Patterson.
Yes, I am in that community. In fact, I taught at O'Farrell before it became a charter school. So I live in southeastern San Diego. So it's a school that's a part of my community, my district. And I appreciate what you said, Mr. Barrera, because the fact of the matter is that given a punitive situation right now, I don't think that's wise, given where we are with pandemic. and all the other issues that are going forth. And the fact that Susan came in just now and is trying to make corrections. I think that going forward, we have to look at the issue of them being trustworthy, and we're trusting her tonight based upon a document that you're talking about revising. And I want to say to Trustee Patterson that to me, that is what law is. And that is what you do. You get a recommendation from staff with the best of their intent, but then we as trustees have the right to say yay or nay, to look at it, to say, it's not that I don't believe you, but I think this is a better pathway to go. And so it's not that staff just gives us a recommendation and we sort of rubber stamp it. We are to look at it and to see what's the best path forward in any given situation. And I think that because of where we are with the COVID-19 issue and the fact that students are counting on this, I think we've uncovered a larger issue that perhaps we've missed in the past about students moving forward, because there's no way we should have done that. It came up about SCPA, the fact that we had a middle school and then the students were not allowed to move forward to high school, but that's a different school because it's about creative and performing arts. And you have to perform at a certain level of whatever it is you're in, art, dance, music, or whatever. But in this case, we're talking a regular school, and students go there expecting to stay. They should not be disenrolled at that point. And we need to just address it, to say, hey, we've screwed up, to say we're allowing 750 at the middle level, because everybody knows at that level, middle school is a more difficult age than the elementary students or the high school students. So we've effectively disenrolled those students because they may have had some issues earlier. I know they say it's a lottery, but anyway, that's my position on that. And I can appreciate what Mr. Barrera is saying, and I thank you for that.
Okay, Trustee Patterson.
Yeah, thank you. Deidre, I would just ask you to begin to address what Trustee Barrera discussed on the kindergarten enrollment. So currently those students that O'Farrell has promised to enroll into kindergarten, if we were to go forth on the staff recommendation, what would happen to those students? Would they be enrolled in a district school? Would they have the option to go to another school? Or is he completely correct that that their admission would be revoked essentially?
So this O'Farrell has represented to us that they have enrolled these students. You know, obviously they haven't attended a day of school yet, and I can't confirm where they are in the enrollment process. If they have completed the enrollment process by submitting all their paperwork and they're set to go, or letters have just gone out and they're waiting on responses. I don't know the exact details. I just know the school has represented to us that they have enrolled these students. If this revision is not approved, then it would not approve an expansion of the enrollment in kindergarten. So beyond I believe it was 93 students was the enrollment from last year that would kind of more align with the 1835 total enrollment. So those students would then have to look at other placement options for the 2021 school year. So that could be a district school, that could be a charter school, that could be if they were coming from out of district, going back to their district schools. It could be a variety of issues for those students.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm just going to make a few comments about this. First of all, we don't make conditional agreements lightly, because we do know that there have been problems with agreements that we've made in the past. In most of those cases, I feel like we were hoping against hope that somehow a school would be able to pull it together when it was pretty difficult for them to do. We also find ourselves in a pretty unique situation here, where we're pushing a charter school about disenrolling their students, and because obviously if they disenroll their students, there's a good likelihood that they would end up in many of our district schools. So I think what's evident from what the Tracy's have said, it's more about what's better for the students overall. And I think that's also true when talking about the kindergarten students in terms of whether things were done rightly or correctly. We certainly have some families that have certain plans in that direction. But there are these two courses. One is to disapprove it. And then we also know that they're out of compliance in terms of their overall enrollment. And so therefore they would have to remedy that in some way. I mean, they could decide exactly at what level. I guess the other issue that's been brought up here is the whole issue of not being able to continue from middle school to high school, and limiting the enrollment of overall of the school, which is what we could enforce, does not necessarily solve, the school wouldn't necessarily have to solve the middle school to high school bottleneck. They would just have to make sure that the enrollment did not exceed the number that is required. So in a way, what the proposal, at least the motion from Mr. Ferrer, is actually saying, okay, we will allow this number of students to come into kindergarten, but in exchange, we will correct this other problem, which we would not be able to probably immediately correct or correct so quickly of the middle school to high school problem. So that, I think that's where the decision is. In either case, no matter what we do, the total enrollment is going to be brought back into compliance. And I think the other issue too is this is not just any charter school. I mean, we have, the O'Farrell is certainly one of the most outstanding charter schools in our district, and particularly because it is a community charter school and based in the neighborhood. And I think also the fact that they started as a middle school, that they, the school took on the challenge, of parents are happy to send their kids to many times the local neighborhood elementary school down the street. But many parents are very concerned about where they send their kids to middle school. So they started with one of the, let's say, least popular choices in terms of saying, as opposed to we'll start with elementary school and then bring them up to middle school, and then we'll know them and like them and so forth. But we're going to take people that came in from the outside and from various schools, and we're going to form this middle school. And I know there's a long history behind that, but I guess there's a long-winded way of saying, I mean, that there's, as Trustee Barrera said, there really is a lot of credit of this school in the bank based on the performance over the years. This is not just any old school making the request. So as I look at all of this, it seems like the best outcome for students is to allow the kindergarten to continue forward with increased enrollment, which will align more with the first grade. The correction needs to be at the middle school level. It doesn't sound like it's that hard of a correction in terms of it's a popular school, so they have waiting lists, and particularly in terms of stopping the practice of bringing in extra kids for their large middle school after 5th grade. Right there, there's a pretty dramatic shift in terms of how many students would be able to go on to high school. So therefore, based on that, I'm going to support the motion. Any other comments from board members? Trustee McQuarrie.
Yeah. So I first connected with O'Farrell when it was a middle school only in 2014, and met with Jonathan Dean, and we knew that we had roots in the San Joaquin Valley and had a lot of shared memories. So my support of O'Farrell has been long, and I'm absolutely impressed with their the process and their outcome, and watch them expand to include elementary grades and the high school. And I was there also to break ground on the new high school field, and I also want to remind the community that O'Farrell has been on the U.S. News and World Report best high schools in the United States for a number of years, and so they rank not only very well, not only from local standards, but within a state and national standards. So my support for O'Farrell is there. In addition, I have concerns about kindergarten students who are planning, have already been probably given notice that they're going to be going to that school. And as a father of 3 and a grandfather of 5, and I've been to 7 of the 8 first days for my children and grandchildren, I know the feelings that go into a child who is getting ready for kindergarten and go to school. So the kindergarten enrollment and the disenrollment, I think would be very disruptive, and I totally understand the issues involved there. My main concern is the step that we would be taking to establishing a precedent in terms or continuing a precedent after we've already learned our lesson that agreements and conditional approvals have not worked. And so then it becomes a matter in the future of just becoming arbitrary as whether we approve or disapprove a particular major revision based on conditions. And so my main concern is that we know that conditional approvals have not worked, and legally and the effort to enforce them are problematic. And so that's what troubles me. It's not the school, and I absolutely understand and accept Susan's commitment to make sure that the conditions get approved. But she is not the board. She is speaking as a interim administrator, and she's given us the her assurance that they will comply. And I'm wondering, does action have to be? I suppose action has to take place because of the timing. But I'm also thinking that the solution isn't necessarily disenrolling kindergartners, or at least sending some notices to some families that they would not be able to attend. I'm thinking the solution can be generated within the confines of the motion, in a working it out with Deidre and our charter office and the board and Susan. Even if whether we approve or don't approve, and so I think we can arrive at the same solution, and I'm thinking we can arrive at the same solution by not conditionally approving tonight the motion. So I totally understand and accept the arguments that have been presented, but just from the lessons that I've learned is that I would want to put a stop to conditional approvals based on an agreements that we make here during a board meeting. And I sort of share Trustee Patterson's concerns that not so much that we're going against the recommendation of charter staff, but that we would be establishing a precedent and a continued practice that we know is not a best practice. So I would tend to vote no for the motion.
And yeah, thank you, Trustee Evans. Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I would completely agree with what Trustee McQuarrie just outlined. And I would say that we have a job as a Board of Education to make sure that we set the precedent and that we have responsible governance and we work with all of our stakeholders to move forward. And I don't like to think of tonight as the be-all end-all situation where if we say no, there is absolutely nothing we can do to move forward. I think that as a Board of Education, if we want to devise a solution that takes our opinions, Trustee McQuarrie and I, and however the other board members feel, I believe we can move forward effectively without immediately disenrolling those kindergartners. And I don't think it's fair to say that if we choose to not accept this motion, that it is over, that I do not believe that's the case. And I have, as I said, I have grave concerns with this. And once again, it is awful that we would have to consider disenrolling kindergartners. That's not acceptable. And I'm still not supporting that specific action. I think we can move forward in a way that brings together all stakeholders. And that's why I would agree with Trustee McQuarrie.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson. Any other board member comments? Okay, at this point, we can vote on the petition. We have no other public speakers, correct? Okay. Okay, let's go through the roll, starting with Trustee Patterson.
Nay.
Barrera?
Point of order.
Yes.
What is the motion on the floor that we're voting on, please?
Okay, I will. I'll try to state it and make sure that the movers, the makers of the motion agree that the motion is to approve the increase in kindergarten enrollment based on two conditions. One, that they bring down in the current upcoming school year, that they bring down the excessive enrollment, which is about 156 students, bring that down by half. And in the following year, that they bring it down the other half, so that by the end of the next year, the total enrollment is in compliance, and that under this agreement, that there would be no disenrollment of students passing from middle school to high school, that there would be no lottery for students passing from middle school to high school. Those are the conditions, and it would to be a document that I believe would be signed by the interim superintendent as well as the board and our district officials as well in this agreement. Okay. So that is the motion. We have Trustee Patterson nay and Trustee Barrera aye. Trustee Beiser?
Aye.
And Trustee McQuarrie?
Nay.
And Trustee Whitehurst?
Aye.
Aye. And Trustee Evans? Aye. So therefore that passes. First of all, a nay vote by our student board member, and among the rest of the board, it passes 4-1. Okay, so that motion carries, and that means that the staff and Ms. Katita and their board will be working together to make that agreement official. Okay, at this point, we will move on to the agenda. Moving on to item D, we have no reports from closed session. Administrative assignments to be announced by Superintendent Martin.
Thank you, President Evans. The administrative assignments for this evening are principal for Edison Elementary School, Jamie Lee, principal for Horton Elementary School, Danielle Garignani, principal for Miller Elementary School, Gina Camacho McGrath, principal for Scripps Ranch High School, Matt Lawson, principal for Whittier, Callie Madison, vice principal Lincoln High School, Noor Nona, vice principal for Mira Mesa High School, Jason Fowler, vice principal for Point Loma High School, Randy Matuk, and vice principal for Twain, Julia Groff.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And now do we have a superintendent's information report?
Yes, we do. Thank you, President Evans. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. This is the final board meeting of the 2019-20 school year, and quite a year that it has been. I just want to finish the year by thanking our incredible staff across the entire system for their hard work and commitment during very difficult circumstances this year. I want to thank our students and our parents for their perseverance. I want to thank all of you, the members of the board, for your continued and outstanding leadership and your unwavering commitment to equity and to excellence. With everything that we've been facing, our North Star has remained our North Star, and my thanks and gratitude goes to all of the people I've just mentioned, and including our board. The month ahead is just going to be the shortest summer break in San Diego history, I think, as we work to make sure that schools across our district are safe for a physical reopening whenever it becomes safe to do so. And we are working to level up the online learning experience for our students, for our parents, and for our teachers. It's an incredible challenge, and yet it's an amazing opportunity. We see the opportunity that's before us, and we are fully engaged in that moving forward. So I wish everyone a happy end of the year. And now break's over. Let's get this done.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Martin. And now we'll go to board information reports, starting with Trustee Whitehurst Payne.
Okay, you decided to go backwards today. That's good.
I got my alphabetical order.
I don't know. First of all, I would like to say congratulations to us for getting through this year with pandemic and all of us learning a new term that we really didn't know and understand. And I'd like to offer congratulations to some partners that we have in my community. The Earth Lab is going to be opening with a program working with our middle school students at MTM. And they're excited about it. So thank you, Superintendent, and your staff for working with them. The Elementary Institute and the DEEP program have gotten a grant, and they are going to be doing some work with our students, whether it's online, whatever way they can. They're committed to working with our students. And for those folks who say the Elementary Institute of Science does not work with our kids, last year they worked with about 3,500 elementary students. So yes, they do. They're going to find a way to do it again this year to work with our students. So we're excited about that. The DEEP program worked with at least 4 of our schools in the Lincoln cluster. And all of these are in the Lincoln cluster. So I'm grateful for that. BAPAC has a scholarship that they're offering for math tutoring. So if students want to go online, just call my office and we'll put you in touch with them. And I'd like to say that I want our schools to open safely. That's my number one priority. Safety has always been my number one priority. When we were dealing with lead, when we were dealing with shootings, whatever it was, it's always been about safety. So that is my priority. Having said that, I want to segue to something the students said last week. They were talking about how they do not feel safe on campus. And I was really kind of startled by that because I could not fathom them feeling like they were intimidated by the police on campus. That is not the role of the police, and schools know that. I've talked to the superintendent about it, and she agrees that she's had several conversations. We're going to have to put in place some things so that students do not feel unsafe on campus. That is totally unacceptable. And my only question related to that was every year we do surveys, these collect the data and all of that, but we're not really finding out the true information if we don't find out that students don't feel safe on campus because we have police there. So hopefully with the committee and some of the other things that are planned for next year, we can address that and correct those issues. So I would like to say happy summer to the rest of you who are not going to be working, and to get ready for the fall, roll up your sleeves and let's get ready to do it because we can do it. Up and on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Whitehurst Payne. And now Dr. McQuarrie.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We do want to have safe schools, and we know how to do it. What I want to remind our community and the voters and the people of San Diego is that we can open our schools if we can open them safely. We need, and that's up to our communities to follow the guidelines. Wear a mask, use social distancing, do good hygiene, wash your hands. be careful and be smart about who you're with and what you're doing. We cannot open our schools if our communities are not safe. So we need to have safe communities. So the first step is not us opening the schools. The first step is our community who practice the behaviors that enable us to have communities that do not have a spread of the coronavirus. So it really is up to our community that will determine how we open our schools. That's number one. Secondly, we can open the schools as well if we contain the virus, but also if we have the funding. So right now it's going to be up to the Senate and up to the President to take action on the HEROES Act, which will provide funding for our emergency providers, provide funding for our local and state schools, local and state governments, as well as funding for schools. In that bill that will be presented and has agreements from McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, and the President. $105 billion. It's half of what we need, but it'll get us there and will allow us to open. So we need to have safe communities, and we need to have the funding in order for us to do the mitigations that will make that possible. And have a great summer.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. And now let's go to Trustee Beiser.
I'll defer my time.
Okay, thank you. And Trustee Barrera.
Thank you, President Evans. I just want to thank City Council President Georgette Gomez and the majority of the San Diego City Council that tonight approved a delay of the time that, or what we should say, approved an extension of the ban on evictions. We've been very clear that with everything else facing our families during this crisis, our families should not be in a situation where, because of an economic crisis created by a global pandemic, that they're losing their homes. And we know that when we begin the school year online, the reasons that Dr. McQuarrie outlined, a student's home is also a student's classroom. And so providing at least some temporary relief. I think what the council's action tonight was to extend the ban on evictions through the end of this year. I think the council president had proposed extending it through the end of March of next year. So hopefully if we're in this situation where there's no relief from the pandemic in a few months, the council will act again. Took an important action tonight that provides relief for our families and students, and I want to thank them for that.
Okay, and Trustee Patterson.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. I just want to echo what Trustee Whitehurst Payne said, specifically referring to last week's racial justice workshop. We are really committed to changing the environment. And when we come back to school, when that is, it's not going to be the same. And we need to make a change. And when that committee comes back with their recommendations, we are going to do everything in our power, and we're going to make sure that there's a change, because it is so true. These stories of students and my own stories of listening, of experiencing when a teacher would put a stack of referrals at her desk, say, I'm dying to give out referrals today, and then call school police when a student talked back to her, per se. These are situations that I, in a privileged community, are experiencing. And I know from other students that this is significantly worse in other areas. And this needs to change. This is not something that we can continue to let it slide, because Enya Griffin was right when she referenced the idea that students need to feel safe in school if they want to be successful. And if they want to be able to if they want to be able to learn and to make a difference. And if that's what our mission is about, which it definitely is, then I know we're all going to be committed to making that change and to finding an equitable path forward where all students feel safe on campus and we have the necessary measures in place to keep our schools secure. And with that said, I also just want to emphasize that we are working every day to make sure we can get back to school. It's definitely a hot button issue right now, but my stance has always been the same. we need to move forward with every stakeholder feeling comfortable before we can make that decision. And when our teachers feel comfortable, we're here to support moving back to school. But we need to make sure that we can get to that point. And I know as a student, I'm ready to go back to school. But I also recognize that infection rates are up, and I have a responsibility to make sure that I do my part as a citizen to keep those rates down and to quarantine and to ensure that I'm not spreading the virus and continuing the problem. As Dr. McQuarrie said, it's our jobs to make sure when we go back to school, because it's us as a community that's going to define how that happens. I'm really looking forward to when that day can come. I'm looking forward to when we can all play sports again. I know CIF released information about that to everybody who plays sports. Please go take a look at that. And I'm very excited to move forward in this school year virtually and very soon in person. Thank you.
Okay, so just let there be no doubt about it that this board is a pro-school physical reopening board. That is our commitment, and we are still working on that. We know that we have to start the first week of school online. It remains to be seen what is going to be done after that. But the fact of the matter is we will be ready when we are able to open the schools. We are already moving forward with buying the personal protective equipment, making all the plans and all the mitigations and so forth for what we will need to do when we are back in the classroom. And as everyone has previously said, the only thing that is stopping us from opening the schools at this point, or the major impediment at least, is the community spread of the virus. And so everybody during the next few weeks needs to wear your mask and follow all the procedures, because if we get it down in the community, then that much sooner we can open our schools, which we all want to do. Okay, let's move along with the other items on our agenda. We're now going to student instructional matters, the implementation of the 2020-2021 Community Advisory Committee for Special Education recommendations. We had a report at last meeting from the outgoing Chair Maura Elbritton, and we wanted to have a response from the staff at this point. So I will turn it over to Superintendent Martin to present the item, and then we'll hear any public speakers, and then this is an information item for the board. Okay, Superintendent Martin.
Thank you, President Evans. This presentation, as you just said, it's showing the action steps that we're taking to address the recommendations that we heard when the CAC came forward, and Moira presented some recommendations, and you all asked for us to come back at tonight's meeting as a response to the request, to your request. So Sarah Ott, our Executive Director of Special Education Services, is going to provide that update as a response to the recommendations we heard from Moira.
Go ahead now or waive public comments first? Sorry.
First. Go ahead and present first.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Good evening, Board of Trustees. Superintendent Martin, tonight I'll be sharing with you the information of how we're going to implement the recommendations presented to the board from the CAC. The recommendations were as follows: district's commitment to a guaranteed viable curriculum for students with disabilities, establishment of an alternative dispute resolution process, additional information on a free and appropriate public education or FAPE services for students with disabilities during COVID, such as inclusion, distance and on-site learning, parent training, behavioral supports, and communication, and full access to all district courses for students with disabilities, whether online or on-site. I'm going to start with the first recommendation, which is guarantee viable curriculum. And this was really recommended for our MOD Severe program, moderate to severe program. Our current reality is teachers have access to a supplemental support, which is news to you and unique, that they're using as their primary curriculum. We know from the communication from our educators that we need more job-alike training and collaboration for all educators working in our MOD Severe programs. Just so everyone knows, the MOD Severe curriculum is not something that you can purchase. It's something that has to be created by modifying our general education curriculum. So our plan of action is by August 2022, we will have developed the curriculum for our Mod Severe program. And we'll do that for all the ages within our Mod Severe program, which is birth to 22, and will be standard-based that aligns across all schools. We'll have educators who work in our Mod Severe program, both teachers and related service providers, have job-alike opportunities provided centrally to help us design the guaranteed viable curriculum and collaborate together on best practices. We will then be able to use News to You and Unique as supplemental curricular supports to this guaranteed and viable curriculum. The next recommendation was for an alternative dispute resolution process. We are calling this informal dispute resolution. Our current reality is that the Ombudsman program is involved to support the IEP process for families and IEP teams. Our plan of action moving forward is by August 2021, we will implement a new process to facilitate early, informal dispute resolutions of parents' concerns, which will be created during this school year in collaboration with family engagement and our legal department. We will be identifying staff to act as facilitators for this new process, who will attend training on alternative dispute resolution techniques through the use of ADR funds. And we decided to name this informal dispute resolution because we already have an ADR process through our legal department that is more formal. And we wanted, the recommendation was something informal that parents didn't need lawyers and was accessible to all. Our next recommendation is for free and appropriate public education in online learning. And we know this is a big topic of how we're going to support our students online. Our current reality is we implemented distance learning in response to COVID-19 to meet the needs of our students with disabilities to the maximum extent possible. We were able to get a lot of feedback and input about the successes of our distance learning and what we need to improve on as we move forward online. We also were able to try on different experiences during our extended school year and got positive feedback about some of the changes we already made and how we can make more as we move forward to the fall. So our plan of action is for this upcoming school year, students with disabilities will receive live online instruction from their teacher, their education specialist, and related service providers to meet their IEP needs in a robust online learning environment. And we're still developing this plan, as we all for the general plan, with input from teachers, related service providers, families, and students. We just recently had 2 parent think tanks, which we gathered input on how to best support our students in specialized settings. And we will be communicating the details of this plan once it's all finalized and developed. School teams will also be having discussions with families about their individualized student plan for every student with a disability for online learning. The last recommendation was for equity and access to all courses. Our current reality is students, all students and students with disabilities, take courses that are available at their high school. They may have some options for community college, but mostly are taking their classes available at their high school they're enrolled. So the plan of action is that the Leadership and Learning Department and the Special Education Department will work together to evaluate how to expand core offerings beyond the school of attendance. And we'll be able to communicate that plan to the CAC by February 2021 for the 21-22 school year. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, let's hear what we have for public comments.
Yes, we have received 4 requests for public comment on item E1. The first is from Christy Henney. Special education will need to be in-school learning. At the end of the school year, it was hard for me and my daughter trying to understand what the teacher wanted in her homework. I was still working since I'm in the military. The online classes we had to sign into were hard to sign into, and other parents had issues too. Then on top of that, I had a kidney stone and an infection on top of that. It was hard for my daughter to concentrate at home as well. She is more focused at school where she doesn't have distractions. She is autistic and has short-term memory issues. Sarah High School needs to open their special education classes at least. My son will also be attending De Portola Middle School, and he has ADHD and has issues with reading and writing. He will also need school because it is less distracting than home. These schools need to be open at least to the kids with IEPs. The next comment is from Aaron Kohler. San Diego Unified District needs to open elementary schools. My son is heading into kindergarten in a mod severe classroom at Hawthorne Elementary. In-person instruction is essential and critical for young children, and especially those with disabilities. Please find creative solutions for special education mod severe children who desperately need to go back to school in person. The status quo of distance learning and not providing children with IEPs the services they are legally required to receive is not working and must change on day one of the 2021 school year. Please make decisions based on what the children's needs are, especially the most vulnerable in special education. Small group outdoor therapy sessions, dropping off and picking up assistive technology devices, and petitioning the state to open elementary schools with mod severe classes are just a few ideas. Please put our students' needs above the demands of your teachers' union. Otherwise, we will be forced to leave the school district for another district or private school. The next comment is from Scott Sodi. I am the chair of the CAC, and I am writing to express my concerns regarding the upcoming school year. Distance learning worked for many students. However, many students with special needs were left with a school system that they were unable to access. While much of the district's response can be chalked up to the unprecedented nature of the situation, parents are tired of hearing this as an excuse for the lack of services provided and the dearth of communication. The plan presented tonight is more of the same without any detail as to how it will be implemented. The district is required to meet the IEP needs of students, but there is no plan on how to actually accomplish this bare minimum requirement. If we keep taking half measures, we will continue to get cobbled together curriculum that failed so many students at the end of the year. And we have a comment from Moira Albritton. At a bare minimum, American Sign Language needs to roll out this fall with availability to all San Diego Unified High School students. It is ideally suited to distance learning. We have discussed it for almost a year already. The 2022 deadline for guaranteed viable curriculum means 2 more years of students with mod severe disabilities receiving cobbled together inconsistent instruction. What other subgroup would you suggest receive such a non-education? A 2021 deadline means another year of families seeking advocates/counsel. We need a pilot this fall. Alternative dispute resolution is required in both California Ed Code and within the IDEA. Other SELPAs offer ADR. It is ludicrous to spend money on litigation without informal options to resolve disputes. The Ombudsman program was never intended to serve this function. Action, not empty promises to study and plan for some future cohort of students are needed. And that's public comment on that item.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, are there any questions or comments by board members on this item? Trustee Patterson.
Thank you, Board President Evans. So I just wanted to clarify something quickly. So this is the same discussion that we were having earlier on allowing access to course loads across the district. And this is what Dr. Whitehurst Payne was referencing in the student that wanted to take calculus but wasn't able to. I'm sorry, I might be merging 2 different things. Is this the same discussion on course load and having access to every course offered in the district?
So I love merging multiple things. I'm an integrator to heart, as everyone knows in my inclusion. So yes, it's all together. Students with disabilities want more access to ASL. Students in AP want more access to AP. I mean, it is a integrated conversation that we as a team and leadership and learning and special ed department are going to be working together to try to figure out how to have those offerings. And some courses are really hard to staff, ASL being one of them. We want to make sure that we have high qualified educators to be able to offer to a wide variety of students.
Okay, so just to clarify, so the difference is, I know we had some discussions on, so it won't be implemented this August, but it'll be implemented for the next year, correct?
Our goal is to be able to start expanding, and we've been really focused on online learning. So our goal is to figure out how to continue to expand our course offerings from just your homeschool to more options. And if we can do that sooner, we will. But our action step is for the following school year.
Yeah, thank you for that work. That's really exciting for all students, the ability to take, I mean, especially like advanced courses that students don't have access to. That's really amazing work. And definitely just addressing the IEPs. I know I've had a lot of parents reach out about IEP needs, and I thank you for updating us on that. And I hope that people will be able to get their questions answered and more specific details coming out. But really good work and great response. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Patterson and Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. You're muted, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. You need to unmute. There you go.
I was just going to comment on Zach's question in that, yes, our spectrum should cover from A to Z, and that's a complaint. But I think a part of what they're talking about tonight is the fact that curriculum has to be developed and approaches have to be worked around to make it accessible versus something right now that's accessible for other students. There's a class out there now and there's a student who can access it maybe in school A and the program is in school D, then you just go online and get it. It's what we're saying versus curriculum has to be modified. And if there's a student who wants to access it from a mod severe category, then someone needs to go in there and make it accessible for that child, which is an additional step beyond what you were talking about. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's actually a good clarification. That mod to severe thing was, that curriculum piece was the part I didn't understand. So yeah, thank you for explaining that to me.
Okay, any other comments by board members? Vice President Barrera.
Yeah, thank you, President Evans. So Sarah, as you're working on the development of the online program and the online curriculum, and we're looking to be able to expand the services that we offer students with IEPs, even as we're in distance learning, are you also becoming clearer about, are there services, and you may not be able to answer this question right now, but are there services that simply require in-person delivery? You know, so as we're moving, you know, forward over the course of this year, are we able to also identify, you know, those services that absolutely require in-person delivery? Because then that becomes important for us to think about, you know, as we are able to bring back in person, you know, following Dr. Whitehurst-Payne's, you know, framework that we start with the most vulnerable students and we expand out. Where is our thinking about that right now?
That's a good question. I think we've expanded what we thought was impossible as we've been trial and erroring and what we can do. But we have been developing a list of what we've heard and what we've seen across the state and across the country as kind of priority areas that are more difficult online than others. So I don't know that we can say, you know, are impossible. One area that we know is standardized assessment aren't valid. So the makers of the standardized assessment did not make a version that was valid online. So that standardized assessment is used when we're initially identifying a student for services or reevaluating if a student is still eligible for services. So some specific disability categories require that. So that's a priority area. We know because this test was not made for online and we can't give it because the results wouldn't be valid. We know that students learning Braille, that's something that's hands-on and trying to get that to their class where someone's next to them being able to do it and the Braillers being, so there's certain things that we've been trying to have alternative means, but when we are, and it's safe for us to open, we have a priority list of where would we go first based on the information we've heard. Students in our Mod Severe program, things like that where we know we've heard the statements from families, we've heard the statements from teachers, we know from our experiences across the nation who would be in that category of that prioritization.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments at this point on this information item? Dr. Whitehurst-Payne.
I would just like to tangentially add on that and say, related to the previous discussion we had on O'Farrell, we also know that our kindergartners, TK and kindergartners are in that vulnerable population that you're talking about, that they need to be in person. And it's almost like an accommodation for them because they haven't learned anything to know how to come online with us as a school. So I'm glad. I would also, as a superintendent, include that as a group that I'm sure you're looking at to see if we had a way to bring anybody back. Would we consider those groups first?
Yes, that's a very vulnerable population, the very young children. Any other comments before we move on from this item? Okay, then we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is in section F, the board consent agenda. I'd like a motion on the first 3 items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Trustee Barrera is seconded, and these are some routine matters here. F1, 2, and 3. So we will now vote on them. Trustee Patterson.
Aye.
Barrera.
Aye.
Visor.
Aye.
McQuarrie.
Aye.
Whitehurst-Payne.
Aye.
And Evans. Aye. Okay, that passes. And now we move on to item F6, which is the resolution in the matter of supporting the San Diego Community Schools Coalition. Mr. Barrera, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne, do you want to present this item?
Yeah, I'll start if that's okay, and then Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. So, the concept of community schools has been developing around the country for a number of years now. And we have a local coalition of community organizations, teachers that have been developing this concept here in San Diego. And so, one of the issues that became very clear with the pandemic and the need to shut down is how critical it is for us at schools to be able to think about not just the needs of our students, but the needs of our entire families. So when we have done our meal distribution, we've been conscious that our partnerships with Feeding San Diego and the food bank have made it possible that not just our students get a breakfast and lunch, but that our families have access to nutritious food as well. We have so many parents that have lost their jobs or lost work. We have, of course, a large number of undocumented families in our communities that, because of the, I just believe, mean-spirited approach from the Trump administration, have not benefited from any of the federal relief that's gone forward. And so we just think about the realities that are facing our families to see our schools as the center of community, which is something that goes back to the beginning of Vision 2020. It's just so clear that we need to do more, and we need to have people whose responsibility it is in our schools to be thinking about meeting the needs of our entire families. And we need to be approaching all of the necessary change that we're making as a district by understanding that this change is only possible when it's owned and implemented at the community level. We had such an important discussion last week on our anti-racism efforts, but if the anti-racism efforts are driven from the top down, I don't believe that we're going to see the impact that we need to see. And so a big part of community schools is allowing communities and our school communities to go through their process of identifying their vision for how they want to see change happen at their schools in the interests of our students and our families. So this is a concept that's been consistent with this district's approach to community-based school reform that we've held for a decade. And this is the next level forward in implementing a real community schools model. This resolution specifically calls for certain steps in the implementation of that model, including the identification of pilot schools over the course of this year, implementing slowly. I mean, we all want to make this happen yesterday, but we need to do it in the right way, in the right process, as Superintendent Martin has so often talked about with the introduction of pilots. And by the way, I believe that the provisions for establishing community schools should be negotiated with the district and SDA, which is one of the core partners, because I think that a negotiated agreement allows us to make lasting commitments that are not subject to the whims of whether school boards believe in community schools at a certain point or don't believe in community schools at a different point. So it's really about putting into place an institutional focus on community organizing, support for all of our families, and the idea that the best work comes up from the school communities and it's supported in a way that's consistent with the district's vision. And I believe that's what this resolution puts us on a path to achieve tonight.
Dr. Wydras-Payne, did you want to add anything to that?
Did we get speakers on this already?
No, not yet. So, okay, I'll just.
I basically, I will not read it because it's a page and a half long.
Right.
But I want to say that I'm just really excited because it's Richard and my community coming together, the Hoover and Crawford communities coming together to put forward this with the teachers group, the educators. And I'm just really excited about just the whole notion of them working together as a team, because I don't know that any other community is as ready for this project as this particular community is. We don't get the arguing, the backbiting, one group carrying it. It's all of them participating together as a team with all of their children at the center of what they're trying to do. So I really am excited about this community school notion, and I'm really excited about everybody being on board to help move this forward. Just thank them for getting on board to do it. Thank you.
I will take it based on Trustee Barrera's and Trustee Wydras-Payne's comments that they are moving and seconding this motion. And now we will turn to public comment. Richard, do you have your sheet there, starting with the first one under F6, like a few sheets in. Yeah, so we'll start off with Ms. Stoltz, and then we'll go around and read these different public comments on the community schools item.
Yes, I'm actually going to start with one that we received in a world language and was translated for us. We have just received the translation, so I'll start with that one. It's from Marie Sindayagaya, or Mama Francine. I'm a parent of a few children who study at Crawford School, Monroe Clark Middle, and Ibarra. I'm also a member of the PSRO organization and a representative of Swahili-speaking parents. I urge you now to support the community schools resolution debate because it is intended to bring support to so many refugee children like ours. We plead that you please help build our schools. Thank you.
Okay, I will continue with a letter from Keisha Borden, President of the San Diego Education Association. SDA has worked in coalition with the Center on Policy Initiatives, Alliance San Diego, SAY San Diego, Youth Will, the Association of Rasa Educators, Global ARC, PSRO, San Diego Urban League, and San Diego Unified's Department of Dual Language and English Learner Education for 2 years to research the effectiveness of the community schools model. This pandemic has shown us that many of the key elements of community schools are exactly what is needed in times of crisis. Community schools like Duarte High School in Los Angeles prioritize relationships with family and community members and were already deeply rooted in their students' lives. When COVID-19 hit, these existing relationships and infrastructures enabled this community school to mobilize support services and connect with their students and families meaningfully and quickly. Please vote yes to support the community schools resolution.
Okay,
The next one is from Dan Nyamanga, a community organizer with the Parent Student Resident Organization. As the PSRO, we are in full support of the adoption of the resolution for the community schools. We're an organization that involves hundreds of parents, students, and residents in the City Heights communities, Crawford and Hoover clusters to advocate for our children's education. As a community, we've been advocating to have an inclusive approach to providing education to our children. Within the past 4 years, we have held 4 community dialogues on education designed to have a say in the district's LCAP, with the last one on November 2019 drawing over 300 participants. We also support parents in engaging in their local SSC, SGT, and ELAC. Our community events bring together the parents, students, teachers, principals, Board of Education leaders, ethnically based community organizations. Each year, we put forth a set of recommendations for how to best educate our children, recommendations that are highly consistent with the 6 pillars of community schools as put forth in this resolution. Education does not happen in a vacuum, and we cannot successfully educate our children and close the achievement gap without all joining together, and the community schools model creates the means to do that.
Next comment is from Kristen Brown. I'm a first grade teacher at Silvergate Elementary and a member of the SDEA Board of Directors. I'm writing in support of item F6, the resolution in support of community schools. Research shows that integrated student supports provided by community schools are associated with positive student outcomes. Young people receiving such supports, including counseling, medical care, dental services, and transportation assistance, often show significant improvements in attendance, behavior, social functioning, and academic achievement. This can only improve the lives of all students and families who attend community schools. Please vote in favor of this resolution so we can work towards the implementation of effective community schools in San Diego Unified.
Okay, the next writer is Adam Goldstein. I am a 5th grade teacher at Hage Elementary School and also the treasurer of the San Diego Education Association. I'm writing in support of this item, the resolution in support of community schools. Key pillars of community schools promote conditions and practices found in high quality schools and address out-of-school barriers to learning. These schools provide much needed supports, including counseling, medical care, dental services, and transportation assistance. Students who receive these supports often show significant improvements in attendance, behavior, social functioning, and academic achievement. Please vote in favor of this resolution so that we can work towards the implementation of effective community schools in our district.
Okay, my name is Francine Nishimiramana. I am a refugee student who graduated in May of 2020 from Crawford High School, and I am a member of the Parent Student Resident Organization. I would like to argue with you to please help or support the community school resolution. The solution is to address the academic and emotional needs of our community students, such as me, especially refugee and immigrant students. I argue please help the incoming students from middle school to high school because this is their first chapter as a high school student or as elders, and I know they need much support and help from you guys. And please support our parents. I don't think they will support their children by themselves without your help. But by that, I know we can build stronger community schools for students and parents.
The next comment is from Jose Gallegos. I am for community schools. I am a father of 2 boys who are 5 and 3 years old. I'm the finance coordinator for the Association of Raza Educators San Diego chapter, and I'm a proud San Diego Unified School Bus driver of 5 years and counting. Having the privilege of serving my community as a school bus driver has given me a unique perspective on what the education system here in San Diego lacks in fulfilling its community members' necessities. Furthermore, during this pandemic, I have witnessed some efforts to provide meals and other materials for students, which fills my heart. But the truth is not every student got meals. Truth is not every student got materials. Truth is community schools are what San Diego community members need and deserve. Community schools have the community's well-being at its core. Do you?
Okay, and this is from Mickey Sullivan. I'm an educator at Fulton K-8 and a parent of students at San Diego High. I am writing in support of this resolution in support of community schools. Community schools developed in large urban regions and low-income areas have proven to increase equitable outcomes for students in the areas of health and education. With the ability to offer resources necessary to support and raise student achievement, community schools are able to provide opportunities for students to obtain readily accessible supportive services such as medical care, dental services, counseling, transportation assistance, academic achievement support, and youth activities, leading to enhancements in student success and achievement. Partnerships developed between families and community engagement partners create a space for collaborative decision-making where a culture of professional learning, trust, and shared responsibilities support and lift our most vulnerable students into achievement, success, and accomplishment. We must provide our students with the keys to become successful, healthy, global citizens. So I urge you, please vote in favor of this resolution so that we can work towards the implementation of effective community schools in our district. Our students, their families, our communities deserve this.
Greetings, my name is Erendira Ramirez, and I am the coordinator of the San Diego chapter of the Association of Raza Educators. I am also a local educator and the parent of an incoming San Diego Unified kindergartner. Today, I'm submitting this public comment because I wholeheartedly agree the community schools model is what our students and communities require if we are truly to put all students' wellness and education first. As a teacher of over 12 years, I've experienced firsthand what it is like for students to try to learn in spite of great challenges the community schools are prepared to mitigate, if not resolve. The wraparound services and family and community partnerships that this model is based on are 2 essential components that many existing schools lack, but that could substantially improve academic performance and overall health of students. Community schools will save lives.
Next comment is from Oremi Lopez. I am a member of ARE, the Association of Raza Educators, and a resident of San Diego. As a member of ARE, I strongly believe that community schools are the best choice for our students. Our children need community schools to ensure they are receiving high-quality teaching. Students that attend community schools succeed academically and are much more likely to be healthy physically, emotionally, and socially. How is this possible? Individual student needs are identified and learning opportunities are designed to address them. Teachers collaborate with families and community partners to develop culturally relevant curriculum that engages students and reflects the experiences of their communities. Community schools will help ensure that all students receive a quality academic education program that addresses the needs of our students in order for them to be successful. Support community schools.
From Sophia Haidari, I'm an organizer with Youth Will and a former Kearney High School student. I'm writing today in support of the resolution presented by the Community Schools Coalition. Our youth deserve a quality education that fosters growth and leadership. Our schools are lacking curriculum and community input that would allow our students to learn and thrive in a holistic environment. Reflecting upon my own experience as an Afghan Muslim student, I felt that the way topics relating to Islam or the war on terror were presented served to perpetuate harmful Orientalist narratives about Muslims. It's important that we uplift the voices of youth and communities who have been historically marginalized as we continue to build the future that our youth deserve. That's why I'm encouraging the San Diego Unified School District Board to support the resolution presented by the Community Schools Coalition.
Good morning, board members. My name is Joshua Piedra. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am with YouthWell. I believe that education is key to the success of youth in our region. It was because of my education in the city of San Diego that I went to college and became the first one in my family to graduate with a BA. But I didn't do so with ease. Growing up in poverty came with unnecessary burdens and tribulations. We can't expect our youth to thrive if they are preoccupied with surviving. Community schools are an opportunity to recenter our youth's needs and support the well-being of our communities. Inclusive leadership and curriculum, combined with supportive services and community involvement, will not only ensure that our youth are being supported throughout their education, but that they also understand what is being taught. Please support community schools.
And our final comment is from Tamara Hurley. Your description of community schools states, families, parents, caregivers, and community members are partners in creating dynamic, flexible community schools. Their engagement is not related to a specific project or program, but is ongoing and extends beyond volunteerism to roles in decision-making, governance, and advocacy. So why are parents excluded from the Community Schools Advisory Committee, which is designed to lead the process? Why is 40% of the advisory committee board appointed community partners? Given the top-down structure of this plan, it has little chance of success. The entire premise behind this model is that it is a grassroots engagement of the entire community. The community schools plan can only work if you engage all the stakeholders, including parents, actively listen to them, and give them the agency to lead. Otherwise, this plan is nothing more than words.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the public comments on this item. Any further comments from any board members on this resolution? Okay, it's Trustee Patterson and then Trustee McQuarrie after him.
I'm very excited on this resolution. It's amazing that we're really working to bring back the power to the schools and remind ourselves that our communities build our schools. And that's the essential idea of this, and I really appreciate that. I just want to say that I think it's so important that we work to engage students in this now too. We talk about our SSCs. Let's make sure that our school site councils are including students. Let's make sure our local LCAP committees are being held accountable by the students that are having these experiences. I know it can be a luck of the draw sometimes, depending on what school site and how they choose to incorporate students. One of the things I know is if you're not given the resources to be successful, it's really, really hard to be successful as a student. So really providing a foundation as we move forward in this to get students involved in these conversations. We had multiple graduates come on and just speak in favor of this. And these are students that really care and that want to see a change in their community, that want to see their school system reflect who they are as an individual. And I think it's critical that we provide the constraints necessary and the support necessary to make sure that our primary stakeholders in education are a part of our SSCs and are a part of building community schools.
Okay, thank you. And Trustee McQuarrie, Dr. McQuarrie, Dr. Mike.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to state my support of the intent and the spirit of the resolution, and want to acknowledge the collaborative effort already put in the collaboration that took place in order to get us to this point in time. This is absolutely an important piece of work. It brings together the entire community working together with our schools, provide a wide range services for our students, and a collaborative effort to create schools that are successful for students who live in their neighborhood. But I do have questions related to the possible future impact financially as well as on district staffing. What do we see as potential financial and staffing impact as a result of this action we may be taking tonight?
Well, I think Trustee Barrera can answer that. I know that it was developed as a pilot plan without a large opening cost. So I'll let Trustee Barrera comment on that.
Yeah, one of the key commitments that we are making tonight is the funding of a position at identified community schools called a community schools coordinator. The goal over this next 2021 year is that we go through a planning process and identify an initial group of 2 to 5 schools that would begin in the 21-22 year. So the funding for those positions would begin in the 21-22 year. And then it is important for us as the board to understand that the goal is that those pilots are successful and replicated and then taken to scale. And as they are taken to scale, this position of a community schools coordinator would be something that would be a new critical position in our district, but would also require ongoing funding. So I thank Dr. McQuarrie for that question.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne?
Yes, I think what we're looking at, what we're trying to look at, this is a paradigm shift in that we're not taking away from the district, we're adding, we're enhancing, and we're using a different model. And to Zach's question about the student involvement, that was my primary question to the folks who talked to me on Thursday about this, Thursday or Friday. They really are pulling in students. And you'll notice here that a couple of the writers are graduates and they are students. That is the beauty of the Mid-City LCAP activities, and I hope that you'll be able to attend. It's usually on a Saturday for the next one that we have. But they pull in so many different communities, all the communities, the Latinos, the Asian communities, the the African communities, the Anglo communities. Everybody is together at this big event with their own translations going on, involved in participating. Parents are there with their children. I mean, it was really a wonderful event. I think, Mike, you were at the first one with me, and then it's continued for the last 4 years. So this is truly, to see it, it's kind of organic. It's all working together, and they're involved in their students' learning. So thank you for that point. But I think that hopefully you'll get a chance to go and see how this community works together to serve the needs of their children.
I'd love to. Thank you so much. Definitely.
Okay, I would just say, I mean, I think it's a tremendous job that this coalition has done to pull this together, and particularly being very reasonable, as we said before, with starting off with one or a few schools so that we can really do this the right way and have it be very effective. With that being the case, and we have the motion on this item, let's go ahead and vote. Trustee Patterson?
Aye.
Barrera?
Aye.
Beiser?
Aye.
McQuarrie?
Aye.
Whitehurst-Payne?
Aye.
And Evans, aye. That passes. Student Board Member Patterson, aye, and all 5 board members as well on that item. And we have another resolution, which is item F7, the matter of implementation of new California legislation related to the authorization and oversight of charter schools. We're not passing a new law. We're talking about implementation of the law at the district level. Trustee Barrera, do you want to speak about this for a minute?
Yeah, just very quickly. So we have had some major legislative changes regarding charter schools and the district's role as in our oversight capacities, including new expectations on charter schools in terms of transparency and anti-discrimination provisions, and then AB 1505, which really talks about the district's ability, as we've been discussing for years, our ability to take into account when a petition comes forward the impact of a new school or a material revision that expands grade levels in existing schools. What is the impact on neighboring schools? What is the impact on the district as a whole? It is our job as the elected board to think about we have to think about all of our schools and our system as a whole, rather than to consider charter petitions as if they are independent and isolated from their impact on the rest of the school communities. So what we're asking for in this resolution, we're asking the superintendent and the charter office to take your time, go through a process of significant stakeholder engagement, including engagement from the charter community, including engagement from parents, teachers, community organizations, students, and come back to us with a clear set of guidelines about how we will implement these laws. We know, as with any new legislation, there's a lot of ambiguity that's left up to individual districts. We know that the California Department of Education is working on trying to clarify guidelines, but in the meantime, as charter petitions come forward to us, it's going to be important that we are clear, and we can be clear with the community, and frankly, the charter office can be clear with petitioners the way in which we will implement these legislative changes. And so we're asking that within 90 days, the superintendent comes back to the board with a set of recommendations about how we plan to implement the new legislative changes, and that will give the community a chance to have input into those guidelines, and in a public meeting when you come back, have a further chance to weigh in. So we think this is about making good public policy around significant new changes in the state law.
Yes, we have one public comment from Kamal Martin. I'd like to submit the comments below on behalf of the California Charter School Association for tomorrow's meeting on item F7. In today's uncertain climate, the shifting variables concerning school reopening, student safety, distance education, and supporting families through this difficult time requires thoughtful leadership. We appreciate the communication of your priorities and your commitment to preventing inadequate oversight as an authorizer, ensuring that the local implementation of SB 126, AB 75, AB 1505, and AB 1507 is aligned with the spirit of the law in which they were created is an important task. As per your usual process, we're eager to immediately begin collaborating and supporting the San Diego Unified Charter Office and stakeholders in the development of a fair, balanced policy that benefits all students. However, the 90-day timeline brought forward in the resolution will not allow for much delay for this complex and highly impactful body of work. We await the proposed next steps to engage the charter community, San Diego Unified Charter Office, and other relevant stakeholders in this joint effort.
Okay, thank you. Any board member comments on this item?
Would anybody else second what that public comment just said, or do we think 90 days is substantial? I don't have the necessary knowledge to say either way, but I just wanted another board member to speak on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Patterson. I think what I heard from the comment was there's no time to waste if we're going to meet a 90-day deadline. So, let's get the stakeholder engagement process going. I do think it's important that we do this sooner rather than later, because we will in the fall start to see petitions come forward. And so I think having our own clarity as those petitions come forward will be important.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, without further comments, let's vote on this item. Trustee Patterson,
Aye.
Guerrera,
Aye.
Weiser,
Aye.
McQuarrie,
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne,
Aye.
and Evans, aye. Okay, that passes along with Student Board Member Patterson and 5 board members, 5-0. We're now going to go to operational matters reserved for the board, and I would like a motion on items G1, 2, and 3 together.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Trustee
Second.
Weiser and seconded by Trustee Whitehurst Payne. So we have the MOU for impacts and effects. We have the ratification of 10 agreements with the Administrative Association and catching up the non-represented classification of employees with the other represented employees for various items. We have one public speaker on item G3. Ms. Stoltz, if you could read that.
Yes, this comment is from Todd Madison. Hi, my name is Todd Madison, and I am a founding member of San Diego Schools. We are an advocacy group to help parents make their voices heard in improving education for our county. We appreciate the service our school employees gave us during the time of need, and compensating them for that at a higher level seems appropriate. We also know the district is facing severe financial problems and need to point out to the board that the board is being asked to approve something that will increase costs, which we know will ultimately add to cuts to programs for our kids without being given a clue what those costs will be or what will be the cut to accommodate them. This is not uncommon, but always wrong. Parents interested in making their voices heard should join us in that effort at SanDiegoSchools.net, as well as the San Diego Schools Facebook group.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions by board members on these 3 items? If not, we will vote on them. Trustee Patterson.
I don't think I'm
Excuse
allowed
me.
to vote on this one.
Okay, well, there we go. There's a yellow note here. Trustee Patterson does not vote on this item. I will ask you to vote when you're not supposed to vote, and I'll leave you out when you are supposed to vote. Okay, just so you're clear. Trustee Brewer.
Aye.
Weiser.
Aye.
McQuarrie.
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne.
This is an equity issue. Aye.
And Evans. Aye. Yes, it's just one tiny group that was not included with the others. Okay, we will now move on to item G6, which is the Charter School Facility Committee Measure YY project recommendations with staff input and recommendations. So I believe at this point, we have a brief presentation by whom? What's that? There's no staff presentation on this item? Okay.
I'll
We've
move
got-
the item.
Okay, we have the
Second.
information in your packets. It's moved and seconded. Let's vote on this item in reverse. Whitehurst Payne,
Aye.
McQuarrie,
Aye.
Weiser,
Aye.
Barrera,
Aye.
Patterson,
Aye.
and Evans, aye. Student board member and 5 board members, 5-0 on that item. And then we will go to item H1.
President Evans, can I move items H1 and H2?
Now, actually, it looks
Second.
like H1 is, I don't know if this is correct or not. It's listed as an information item, but that doesn't make sense to me. So it is an action item, correct? Okay, it was just misstated on this form that I have right here. So it's an action item, which has been moved and seconded. And this is about our general obligation bonds. I believe Mark Young is present and has flown down here to be here for this meeting and is waiting to catch his plane to go back. So see, some things work out better when we're not together. So if there are no questions or comments on this item, let's vote on them. No prohibition on Trustee Patterson. Okay, Trustee Patterson.
Aye.
Okay, Barrera,
Aye.
Weiser,
Aye.
McQuarrie,
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne,
Aye.
And Evans, aye. That passes 5-0 along with the student board member. And then on item H2, just a dashboard alternative school status for Riley New Dawn. A motion on this item.
I'll move it.
So moved by trustee Whitehurst Payne and seconded by me. Okay, so that we will have, now let's vote on that item if there are no questions or comments. Trustee Patterson,
Aye.
Barrera,
Aye.
Beiser,
Aye.
McQuarrie,
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne.
Aye.
Okay, and Evans, aye. Okay, and that concludes that item. And now we go on to the superintendent's consent agenda. We haven't, let me see here if we have any, we do not have any speakers on any items on the consent agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct. Trustee Patterson did want to pull item I-10.
I-10?
Yes,
Okay.
we considered separately from the rest.
Okay, we'll consider that one separately. So is there a motion on the remainder of the consent agenda minus
move it.
item I-10? Okay, moved by trustee Whitehurst Payne, seconded. And so let's vote on the consent agenda at this point. I keep trying to push the green button here. Okay, trustee Patterson,
Aye.
trustee Barrera,
Aye.
Beiser,
Aye.
trustee McQuarrie,
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne,
Aye.
and Evans, aye, 5-0, along with trustee Patterson, student member. And item I-10 was pulled by trustee Patterson. Do you want to make some comments on this, Zachary?
Yeah, you're welcome to go straight to voting. I just plan to abstain. Since I'm not in closed session, I don't think it's a right of me to vote to expel or readmit anybody just since I'm not a part of that process.
Okay, understood. Okay. I'll
move it then.
I'll move and seconded by me. Okay. So trustee Barrera,
Aye.
Beiser,
Aye.
McQuarrie,
Aye.
Whitehurst Payne,
Aye.
and Evans, aye. Okay, passes 5-0 with student board member abstaining from that item. And that concludes the superintendent's consent agenda. We will now go to non-agenda public testimony.
Yes, we have several items on non-agenda testimony tonight. The first one is from Pauline Perry. I am a working mom with 3 children living in San Diego Unified. Last spring, I was extremely hard on both my children and job when school was moved to online. I have no intention of going through that again. If San Diego can't figure out how to get children physically at school, I have every intention of pulling my kids out of San Diego failing schools and temporarily move to Texas to live with grandparents where the schools are open and I can telecommute from my job without constant disruptions. If you don't do something to open schools, I assume you'll have a flood of people moving their kids to nearby districts or even out of state like myself where schools are opening. You'll potentially lose a ton of funding. The next comment is from Ann Tower. I am a concerned grandparent of a 9-year-old boy going into 4th grade and a 5-year-old girl who will be starting kindergarten on August 31st. It is a very frustrating time for everyone right now, teachers, students, and parents alike. I understand and agree with your reasons for starting the year with distance learning. However, I am hoping that distance learning means that the teachers will be actively teaching and visibly communicating with all of their students every day by Zoom or some other application. It is important that the teachers teach and that children not use computer programs to do their schoolwork, but use tools and worksheets given by their teachers as they would normally use if they were in classrooms. Children, especially elementary school children, need their teachers to be there for them every day. I hope you agree. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the best in this coming school year. The next comment is from Grace McGee. Please teach these teachers how to teach online with actual lessons online. The training that is being done in August isn't enough to prepare the teachers to actually teach. We cannot have one Zoom meeting a week. It is unacceptable. We cannot have these assignments online and expect the kids to know how to do it if they're not being taught how. You cannot expect parents to teach Common Core. We need accountability from the teachers and the district because this past online learning was ridiculous. I know a teacher in New York that had to do Zoom lessons 4 times a week for 1 hour with actual teaching. She also had to meet with each student 1 time a week to see how they were doing on their work. And if they're struggling, she helps them understand. I am not a teacher. I did not go to school to teach any subject. So for you to throw my kids in a situation of sink or swim is unacceptable. Everyone's pay should get decreased while you're not doing your job. The union is not about parents and kids learning. Get it together since we need to continue online. When schools reopen, please strongly consider only recommending mask usage for children and eliminating the mandate wordage in your back to school approach. Or implement masks as restaurants and others have done, where the masks are only worn in common areas and once at tables they can be removed. Children should not be forced to adhere to stricter rules than adults have to. Children cannot or should not be expected to wear a face mask 6 hours straight every day. Doing so is grossly excessive. The next comment is from Brianna Mayberry-Kurth, and she has presented a multi-page 5-phase plan for reopening the school district in 2021. The trustees have received a copy of this full proposal, which is very lengthy, so I'll not read it into the record. Phase 1 is distance learning. Phase 2, distance learning and in-person. Phase 3, distance learning and in-person with 50%. Phase 4, 100% in-person. And Phase 5, 100% in-person with no restrictions. The next comment is from Jennifer Dunaway. On June 30th, the unanimous vote by the board reflects our collective confidence that we can open schools in a timely manner on schedule on August 31st with outstanding options for students who want to be on campus, as well as those who wish to learn from home. And said the superintendent, securing learning loss funds to cover COVID-19 costs and to support reopening of schools, which totaled $91.8 million for San Diego Unified. Where did the 91 million go? Just 10 days later, on July 9th, LA Unified and San Diego Unified both state they don't have any funding, and the 3 choices are now only 1. Why is San Diego Unified lumped with LA Unified in this statement? Can we not make our own decisions? Why hasn't San Diego Unified Safety Department been working on readying the workspaces since March 13th? The next comment is from Sia Patel. I am a student at Point Loma High School. Currently, mental illness rates in teens are rising due to the COVID-19 pandemic and repercussions such as the loss of income in families. Students are in need of access to more mental services. There will be a redirecting of funding from services that are unused during distance learning. I would like for the San Diego Unified School Board to use the redirected funding from the closed/unused services to provide mental health counselors to high school students. These mental health counselors would proactively reach out to students to determine those who need additional support when they provide therapy and/or group services. While most other students would be able to have 1 30-minute or less, depending on the seriousness of call or time schedule of the student, call every month while schools are closed. The next comment is from Chris Kate, council member of the 6th District, City of San Diego. As San Diego's 6th District council member and in response to the concerns being voiced by parents and teachers, I am proposing a host of solutions both for in-person and distance learning. COVID-19 has dramatically affected the way we all go about our lives, and children are falling behind. On July 13th, San Diego Unified announced it will not open schools for in-person learning. Subsequently, Governor Newsom permitted schools to submit a waiver for in-person learning on July 17th. This morning, I sent my proposal via email to the board, which includes requesting a waiver to reopen, staggering start times, exploring outdoor classrooms, and in-class teachers' assistance. As a father, I understand the struggle families are going through. We must allow parents to consider the unique needs of their children and make the best decision for their family. I strongly urge this board to consider full implementation of my proposal. And the proposal was provided in writing to the trustees. The next comment is from Emmeline Leopard. In developing a plan for opening schools that considers our most at-risk, underserved students, a hybrid mixed delivery instructional model, which includes outdoor classrooms, meets the July 17th CDPH guidelines released for schools, childcare centers, and day camps. In COVID-19 response, our district could be in the forefront, implementing an innovative and viable program to meet our students' academic, social, and psychological needs, while also engaging in safety protocols. School sites that have outdoor gardens, grass fields, or shaded lunch arbors could be pilot programs. Instruction and counseling services and community meal distribution can be centrally located within clusters. Myriad studies demonstrated that outdoor learning engages students and can improve test scores and graduation rates. The executive director of the Children and Nature Network has argued reading, reflective writing, and gym all lend themselves to being experienced outside. In these challenging times, all creative solutions deserve your kind consideration. The next comment is from Mindy Sue Swanson. Reopening schools using July 17th guidelines would allow for a hybrid model that utilizes the district's school garden classrooms. I have worked with San Diego Unified as a garden educator for 14 plus years, particularly at Bernie Elementary, but also other sites. School gardens are different than classrooms in how they are organized and how students are managed. At sites with existing outdoor classrooms, there may need to be some small modifications to increase safety line mass, less students at a time, more hand washing / sanitizing areas. Still, these outdoor classrooms are ideal for multiple positive learning experiences. National groups like Green Schoolyards of America are promoting these options during COVID-19 for hands-on and social emotional learning, nutrition, science, physical activity, and language. Piloting this effort in San Diego Unified at selective sites and incorporating existing experienced garden educators could help create important options for students and teachers. Our next comment is from Tamara Hurley. Due to the pandemic, online learning may be predominant experience for students next year. But I'm dismayed when SDEA and district leadership make statements that educators now have best practices, believing that past experience, consolidated online platforms, and some professional development starting the first day of instruction will be sufficient to create dramatic improvements. To improve distance learning in the fall would be to collect actual best practices from educators who did distance learning well. You had some teachers who did an amazing job, but because teachers didn't submit lesson plans and principals were discouraged from observing distance learning, the only ones who know what worked well are the students and their parents. Please survey them for the names of teachers who did distance learning well, then ask these rock star teachers to share what they did and spread the word. The stakes are too high to miss this opportunity to collect real best practices. And I believe that concludes our public comment on non-agenda items.
Okay, that includes the public comments. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. See you then. Bye.